All right. Are we getting somewhere? Are we where we need to be after some time of trying to figure this out? Is everything working? It says I'm live. Can someone let me know in the chat whether or not I'm live or not? Because I have no idea. Which is crazy because I'm actually good at this stuff. Like I know how this stuff works, but for some reason when I press start streaming, it just disappeared. Everything on here disappeared. So I want to make sure I'm live before I keep going. And I also don't know what my audio levels are like. So maybe I should let's just turn that down to be safe. So yeah, if you're in here, let me know. YouTube. See, like in the Discord it's showing like I'm trying. I just stink. Um so I couldn't get it right. And I don't know what everything looks like. Let me check on my phone because on my computer it's just gonna, since I'm logged in, it doesn't update as I would like it to. Oh, we're here. We're here. Thank good. I'm so glad. Y'all are saying something because can y'all hear me? Let me. Audio's good. Because it was a hassle trying to get this thing. I know how this stuff works. I understand how to stream. It just was not working for me. So I'm glad to see. Thank you, Random. That audio sounds fine. Let me play a video just to see like what the desktop audio
What is
sounds
going on,
like.
everyone? Welcome to the Manga Madhouse.
Like
Today I have a special
audio?
manga haul for you today. I haven't done one of these in a while, but this is going to be my May manga haul. As you all know, and as I said before, I've had a lot going on and only like spare time to record. So I had like my hauls kind of broken up and I didn't wait to the end of the month to do the haul. But this time I actually have time.
We're just going to assume it's good just because hearing myself talk is drives me crazy. Drives me insane. All right. So, as you all know, the reason we are here today is to talk about video is louder than you. Okay, perfect. Okay, it's a little the chat on my end for some reason a little slow. So what I'll do is turn myself up a little bit, turn desktop audio down a little bit. All right, let's test it again. Instead of me, let's just play this. Can I play this? Drain it out just a little bit and see. That's still too loud. What about that? Is that better? I don't want the mic to be too loud. Like, I don't want it to peak. But also, I understand that the audio for... Okay, is that better? Or is it still too loud? Okay, I think I turned it down a little bit. I think we should be good because I'm looking at the audio levels right now and it doesn't seem like it's too bad. But just let me know. And in fact, I'm just going to look on my phone at the chat because it's a lot easier. Maybe it's quicker that way because the chat on my end is a little slow for whatever reason. I think we're good. It doesn't show the audio levels being like ridiculous for the desktop audio. I had to turn it down pretty significantly, but okay, great. Thank you, Random. Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so enough with that music. Even though that's good. I definitely watch this while I read. But anyway, so as you all know, we are here to talk about Uzumaki because I read it for the first time, and if you didn't know, it's from the Discord. We read it. That was our buddy read for last month. I don't know if we're not necessarily doing them monthly. It's probably gonna be like every other month, just because I want to give people ample time to read because I know life happens and it's hard. Like for example, I was Uzumaki's 19 chapters plus the Lost chapter. I was I think I read like 16 chapters and I fast, like quick, like in 2 weeks. And I was reading other stuff, of course. And then I literally didn't have time to read the last like 3-4 chapters until last night. Like I was struggling to every time I sat down, something would happen, dad life, and just life in general. So I didn't really get a chance to read the end and literally until last night, which the end is ridiculous. And also, I will try my hardest to not really do any spoilers, But I mean, we're here to talk about it. So, yeah, I'm actually probably gonna do like a video about Uzumaki and just kind of talk about it, like as far as like themes and the art and kind of what I took away from it, because my experience reading Uzumaki was completely different from my experience reading Black Paradox, which is crazy because Black Paradox was one of the first manga I read since I started collecting. It was like one of the first ones. Yeah, I think so. It was one of the first, I guess, series, even though it's only one book, one volume. It was one of the first series I read. Because at the time I was still reading, I wasn't done with Tokyo Revengers. I wasn't done with Mob Psycho, of course. So when I read Black Paradox, it was like, oh, okay, I see what this guy's going for here. It was kind of weird, but I really was taken aback by the art. Like the art was really good. It really made you uncomfortable to read, especially like if you have read Black Paradox, the part where like the shining balls and you know what I'm saying, the orbs, I guess is a better way to put it. That was kind of like, oh, this is weird, but it was designed so, it was just drawn so well, it looked so good. I didn't feel like the story progressed the way I would want it to, but at the end I was like, you know what, I'm okay with that. Uzumaki, completely different beast. It was completely different. Like I said, I'll probably do just way more in depth in a video, just because I want to edit and do all that kind of cool stuff, because that's one thing I've been talking about on the channel, is that I want to do stuff that kind of, I wouldn't say show off my editing skills, because it's not like I'm this elite editor, but I want to become an elite editor, and the only way to do that, of course, is by doing kind of, you know, typical content that will push my editing to the next level. But anyway, I mean, at first I thought it was cool. I mean, one thing you can't take away from Junji Ito is his art. And I mean, I would show it, but I don't want to get like banned or anything. It is. Yeah, it's definitely, I can see. So it depends on it depends on kind of, for me, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for horror in the terms of like a good horror movie, let's just say, like, oh, I want it to have, you know, a good story, I want it to have good acting, I want it to have like these themes and stuff, Uzumaki may not be for you. If you're trying to find a story that's super like cohesive and extremely just like telling this overall story, even though I guess towards the end you kind of got that, but it wasn't as fleshed out as you would want it to be. And I felt as though I was missing something when I was reading it. Okay. Yeah, I felt there's something I was missing when I was reading it, because I was like, these stories are like random stories. And I do like that. I do like kind of like anthology series, and I thought that was cool. But picking it up, I thought it was just going to be like a very well put together, cohesive manga. And instead, my takeaway from it after reading it all is that it's like body horror. It's just more of a wow factor type of. I would compare it to like Saw, if that makes any sense. I don't know how many people have seen Saw, but Saw, while it does have like themes in it that relate to, you know, being a good person, and that's the whole reason they're even in that situation, is because everybody has dirt. With Uzumaki, it's not really about that. It's just about how grotesque can I make this look, and can I make you feel like, to me, Junji Ito was like, forget a story. What is the most disturbing images can I put in a manga, get away with it, and kind of have people wanting to read more, even though the story is like almost non-existent until the end? I can appreciate that. I will admit, halfway reading it, I really wish I remember what chapter. I have notes. Maybe I'll go to my notes. It's not like it's gonna give away my video anyway. Those are my notes for Tokyo Ghoul. I have notes somewhere. Manga review. Is it in here? Junji Ito, chapter by chapter. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so let's see. Like, okay, for example, Kyrie. I'm assuming that's her name. Is it Kiri? Kyrie. In my head I read Kyrie, but it could be Kiri. That actually makes more sense. But I haven't heard it pronounced, because my first time reading it through, I try not to, get anybody else's opinions on Uzumaki. But Kiri, she was the worst main character I think I've ever seen. Literally. Only because it's just like, I don't know. Like, it's just, she was just so oblivious to it all. And when you have a main character like that, when I first was reading it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, because there's nothing there. There's no, to me, there's no substance to her character at all. But I will admit, it pushes on the story, because, for example, if she was someone that was more aware of the situation, or wasn't as, as just oblivious as she was, then this would have been a quick story. This wouldn't have been 18, 19 chapters. This would have been 5. She would have got out of there. Like, Shichui, her boyfriend, which that was random. Like, they were friends, and then it was like, oh, that's her boyfriend. He was like ready to get out of there. And of course, Junji Ito made it sure, like, you come to find out you can't get out of there. But even if he wanted to, even if he wanted to, he wasn't going to, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like, even if he was trying to leave, he wasn't going to leave at all. They just kind of had, Junji Ito just wrote it in a way where he kept saying he wanted to get out of there, but he never really tried until the end. It's just, you kind of see that. You kind of see, like, okay, this pushes the story along, but that's what gives you the body horror from chapter to chapter to chapter, because of the fact that, like I said, you have such oblivious characters. You have characters who aren't really trying to, like, make something happen. So I get it. But like I said, I'll admit that first, somewhere up in here, I was like, I just don't know if I can even finish this, because at times it was just like, what am I reading? Like, it just didn't make any sense at times. There was pieces that wouldn't connect. But as I read more, and as I got kind of towards the end, I realized it wasn't supposed to make sense. I realized it wasn't supposed to be the story I went in thinking it was. I realized, as Evil Dead said, it's just body horror. That's all it is. That's the only thing you're kind of built to take away from this, is that Junji Ito is making something as grotesque as possible. And I can appreciate that. There's one thing with horror in any medium, whether it's movies, TV, doesn't matter, manga, books in general. One thing with horror is that it's one of the few genres where it doesn't always have to have a point for you to walk away and be like, that was good. And for me, I personally like, exactly, random. Like, and I might have to read it again. Because I dreaded it the first 7 chapters. Like, there was elements I thought was cool. And Junji Ito would show signs of, like, oh, he really can put something here. He just chose not to. And it was an obvious choice. I don't think it was like a lack of talent or skill or whatever. I think it was an obvious choice that he was like, I'm a kind of hint that I can really write a story. But once again, we're here for the people being swirled up. We're here for the snails. We're here. Like, I think that's really what he was going for. But, like, as I was saying, horror is one of the ones where I can walk away and it doesn't necessarily have to have a great story. It doesn't have to have great characters. It doesn't. As long as, I wouldn't say you're scared, but as long as you walk away feeling some kind of way, whether that be you're scared, whether that be you're just kind of, like, disturbed, because that's really how I felt, especially reading this last night. Like I said, I finally was able to read, like, last 3 chapters last night. I was disturbed. It made my skin crawl, but that's what it's for. It doesn't have to make sense. It's not made to make sense. I actually feel I should pick a better picture here, but it'll do. Actually, I wonder if I can play this while I'm talking, so we're sitting here. Anyway, let me know if that's too loud. But yeah, I really like that. I was able, once I got to the end, it made me regret how I felt at the beginning, because once I got to the end, I will admit, at first I was like, this is stupid. I was like, this is stupid, but like a good stupid. It was like I don't know how to put it. I can't think. I'm trying to think of like a popular movie or TV show, but I walked away like, this is dumb. That's exactly how I felt at first. And then I sat there and thought about it for just like 10 more seconds. It was like, no, I get it though. Like, I completely understand what he was going for. And honestly, my major critique would be just exactly Evil Dead. Thank you. That's the perfect way to put it. Because okay, we'll sit here for a little bit and compare Black Paradox and kind of Uzumaki, if you don't mind, just because those are the two Junji Ito works I've read. But in Black Paradox, those characters put themselves in that situation. And I don't know if everybody's read it, but just to kind of give the idea, those characters put themselves in the situation of what they went through, and they kind of were helpless, didn't really try to get out their own. And to that one, it had a little more substance to it because their own vices is kind of what kept them staying in that situation, as opposed to Uzumaki, they just didn't want to leave. Or and Kairi, she just didn't. I don't think she really just grasped the concept of what was going on, because there was plenty of times they ignored just the most oblivious things, or just the most simple things. Like, for example, early on in the manga, her dad with the semantics started acting crazy, and after that chapter was over, he was just normal. And then he doesn't bring the semantics up again to the end. So it's written in a way where it's just, it makes sense. If you had characters who were strong-willed, if you had characters that had any type of substance, this, as I mentioned earlier, this story wouldn't have lasted 5 chapters, because they would have been like, I'm getting out of here, and then they would have probably, like, considering we know the world once you finish the book, they would have died. They would have just died after, so it really wouldn't have mattered. But it would have been a quick story. But having those helpless characters, having if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, having him kind of tap out at the beginning makes it make sense of why he would stay. Because think about it, he was the only person after his parents to be like, something's going on here, I don't like it, this is disturbing. And then he just lost it. He just broke. And then didn't really talk much after that. Didn't really try to do anything after that. But he was the only headstrong character. So therefore, if he didn't break, like I said, he would have either died really early or the story would have been really short. So it makes sense that the one person who really saw what was going on before it really, popped off, broke down and just became this guy who just is there. And kind of mentions like, the spiral's after us, it's coming for us, it's around us, it's in us. And he really wasn't able to offer much help after that. So I really like that writer's choice to make him helpless. You would think that I don't want my characters to be helpless when I'm reading a story because the story just happens to them. But it was a good writing choice because there was really no other way you could tell that story. And I do get, if you're subjected to body horror, then there's got to be something, to kind of hang your hat on to even tell, to even show the body horror. So I completely get it. The gripe I would have is that maybe try not to make it. There were some stories I felt that just didn't matter. I really wish I could remember off the top of my head, but there were some stories I felt as though it just didn't matter, especially when you get to the end. There were stories that I just felt like, oh, well, now that I'm at the end and I've read, the whole thing, it's like, I could have did without that. There was probably 2 to 3 stories that really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So that could have kind of shortened it a little bit, made it a little bit of easier read, because at times it did get a little repetitive. But this is the thing, the artwork never failed. So I feel as though maybe my repetitive, my issue with the repetitiveness of it maybe wouldn't exist if I just, understood early on what we were going for. I have Tomie, so whenever I read that, I'm definitely going to be a little more open-minded with that one, because this one has opened my eyes as far as just understanding what Junji Ito's really, really going for. I like Black Paradox, but I will say that it was short. It was extremely, extremely short, like 6-7 chapters. So it felt as though these are kind of stories I want from him. I know Junji Ito has a lot of works where he is just telling one story, and that's cool. And I think I want to read those more than I want to read maybe Tomie or any other works he has that's like Uzumaki, where it's just really long. And it's not really that long, but you get what I'm saying. Because I think what he's going for in short story form, I think that's perfect. You can give me 10 short stories, maybe 2 chapters each for each story. I would be perfectly fine with that, because a lot of the things that happen in Uzumaki, it was just ridiculous. So if you're going to go that route, you don't really need to have a fleshed out world or fleshed out story, in my opinion. You don't really need that. I would like to think of like early what's it called, American Horror Stories, similar to that, how they have, every season's different. I think he could probably, and he probably has done this, I just haven't read it, just like I said, like a chapter, maybe 2 chapters at most, just to give it a little extra. But that's it, because if you're just trying to do body horror, I don't need the story. And you can get around certain writing rules or writing flaws because your story is so fantastical. And by that, I mean, like, for example, we're getting to the end and people are creating tornadoes by yelling or blowing or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, if you're willing to do that, if you're okay with doing that, you don't really need 18 chapters. Just give me, and break it up and then show me the most grotesque stuff you can see. But overall, I think it was a good story. Like I said, I want to go more in depth in a video, but I also don't want to hold back here. So, I mean, there's plenty of other stuff I would like to talk about, because, for example, like, let's talk about like some of my favorite stories. Like, one of them would be, let's see, I'm just go to my notes. I should have wrote what the stories were. Let me just get it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna just get up and go get it. Like, maybe that would be easier. Actually, I'm too lazy. I'll just bring it here. Released weekly. Okay, that would make more sense. If Uzumaki was released weekly originally, then that would make a lot more sense, because of the fact that it is kind of just like some of the stories just did not connect. Like, it did not connect until the end. Until the very, very end, that's when you kind of ran into the consecutive chapters of, oh, this is more than just like the Jack in the Box. Thought that was a really good story just for that particular moment. Like, I thought that was a good story. Body horror, of course, and that was great. I thought the idea was great. And that's kind of what I meant by, like, Junji Ito shows that he can write a good story. Because the Jack in the Box one, and kind of how it turned, some of the events that happened in that was kind of, you mentioned it earlier, where it's like, it just kind of happened, and it really wasn't any substance to it. But with the Jack in the Box story particularly, I thought that was a really good way of kind of turning that into how, the whole spiral theme of the whole manga. I think that shows he can write. That shows that he can create a story. I just don't think that's what he wants to do. And if he doesn't want to do that, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. Just continue doing what you're doing, because, like I said, he showed that he can do it. He showed the Jack in the Box story. I'm really trying to think of these other stories. Maybe let's just do this, because I know I'll get in trouble. List of Uzumaki chapters. I just need a list of the chapters, and then I'll know. Volume. Okay, so we have, making sure y'all can see it. Cool. So we have the Spiral Obsession. That was the beginning. I really like that. Actually, I really like that first chapter, because that was a chapter where Suchi lost his parents, correct? That was a good chapter. Probably chapter 2 as well. The Scar. Oh, that was the one with the girl in the forehead. So that one was pretty, I like that one. I don't remember the Fire and Effect, I believe. Which one was the Fire and Effect? The Fire and Effect one. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Where her dad was making a chromatics or whatever. That was a good one. That one was okay. That one, I actually didn't mind the story. It was just like kind of after is what kind of threw me off, as far as her dad went crazy, creating, falling in love with the spiral, and then he was kind of normal after that until like the end. So the chapter alone was good, but once you think about like kind of what surrounds it, it was kind of little eh. Well, so you just go into it with the mindset of a standard manga where everything. Yes, exactly. And now, at random, I will say that that's what happened to me. I picked it up thinking this was going to be a story from front to back. Well, from front to back. I did from left to... Yeah, anyway. I thought it was going to be a complete story from front to back. And I believe in my notes, I probably said it 3 or 4 times. Yeah, and that's not his fault. That's just one of those things where you got to be willing to deal with that criticism, because you are going to have a lot of people, you know, take your art for face value. And you got to understand that anytime you do anything, whether that, I mean, that could be something as in-depth as, you know, creating manga, or even as small as what I do and make YouTube videos. Like, if I'm making a video and this is my purpose, I have to be aware that someone else may take something else out of it. If you get what I'm saying. So you can't just... And I think he full well knew that. I think he knew what he was doing. I think he understood that people were going to be like, that was going to be a major criticism. But you have to, if you're willing to put that work out, I think you got to be, you know, willing to deal with that criticism, whether, you know, it's good or bad. And I think he was, because he kept doing it. And his other work is like that. From, like I said, from reading Black Paradox, I was kind of random as well. It told one story, but it was still, you know, pretty random and pretty like extravagant. So I think that he's well aware of that. It does suck because you have people who will read, you know, first volume, let's just say the first 5 chapters, 6 chapters, and be like, this sucked. There was no complete story. Didn't make any sense. I didn't like it. And I guarantee you there's no one that walks away from this and say the art was bad. So I guarantee you people, you know, read these and be like, you know, I didn't like these. Art was good, but it didn't make any sense. The main character, like I said, she's one of the worst main characters I think I've personally ever read. But it worked. If she wasn't, this whole story wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all. So I completely get it. Yeah, it's just unfortunate because you do have people who will walk away, but you gotta be willing to live with that, and I'm pretty sure he is. The Medusa story was really good with the hair. That was a good story. And then the body horror in that, like the last page or last 2 pages of the chapter where she was like on the light pole, that was crazy. And then that, once again, that's another good example of like the sign of that he can write. He knows what he's doing. Now, as far as it's a collection of stories based on this heart's in the way, so I can't see it. It's not the story of a town spiral. It's a collection of stories in this town of spirals. That makes sense. That makes sense because the end. If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, it makes sense because of the end. Because the end shows that this just happens. This is just how it goes, and I agree that it is a collection of stuff. And that's one thing. Like I said, I realized kind of towards the end is that this really isn't supposed to go together. It's just a collection of stories happening in this one world, in this one town, and Kyrie just so happened to be, you know, in the center of it all, and like I said, that helps the story go. That once again, that leads to why I believe that if he wanted to, he could write quote unquote, you know, better storied manga if he wanted to, because he's shown, you know, with little hints and little foreshadowing here and a little bit of this there, like he's shown that, hey, I can write a cohesive story. That's just not the purpose. That's not what I'm trying to do. Because like I was about to say with the Medusa, how it ended, like the whole thing was about how she wanted to be seen. That girl was jealous of Kyrie because everybody, you know, was paying attention to her. But think about it, it wasn't good publicity. Like, it wasn't like people were jealous of her. It was people were worried about her or scared of her because all this crap would happen and she would kind of be the center of it. But the other girl didn't really see it that way. And I really wish I could remember her name, but she didn't really see it that way. She just saw it as, you are very, very popular. And, you know, then the whole hair thing started happening before Kyrie had to cut her hair, or got her hair cut by Shuichi. And then it ended up leading to the other girl dying. But that's something, you know, we see today. Not necessarily people dying, but people, you see people online and you're like, oh, I want to be like them. not knowing that a lot of stuff they're going through, or a lot of stuff that even made them popular, is not something you really quite want to do. And you do it, you may not end up like them, and you could end off much, much worse. So in his own way, he was able to tell a story that is very prominent, that we see every day. So that's why I say that I believe he has, I'm not even gonna say the potential, because he's been doing this forever, but he has it. That's why I would never be one to say Junji Ito can't write a complete story or can't write a cohesive story, because he can. That's very cohesive. And then he just skipped on to Jack in the Box, another story where, yes, like a lot of the events where, of course, this happened to make this happen, but in the end, it made a lot of sense and it came together and it was a good story. The snail one, I didn't care for. The snail one, I did not care for at all. It was a little wild. You got. First of all, like, as we've been talking about this whole time, his whole thing is to gross you out. Nothing was more. I can't think of anything that was more gross than that. It never got easier for me, ever. It never got easier for me how gross that was, because it kind of repeats itself at the end with the snail people and them eating him and whatever. So the snails never got easier, but I walked away being like, that art was dope. The art was really dope. And attention to detail, all the attention to detail is what makes it even grosser. Like it makes it even more disgusting, more disturbing. And I really appreciate that. If we're talking what Junji Ito does well, his attention to detail for that grotesque stuff is what makes it so grotesque. If he just drew a snail and didn't really add the dots and the spirals and the this and that, and then how they slowly grew the shell on the back, if he didn't do all that, it would be like, okay, this is weird, but it doesn't add to the story. It doesn't really push the narrative or push what he's trying to do, which is, like we keep saying, make something that's body horror. But his attention to detail is what takes that and makes it disturbing. Like, the reason I don't like this is because of how just nasty it is. That's nasty. It was disgusting. Another story I really liked, actually, was the very next one, was the Black Lighthouse one. This one was really good. The only thing I did not like about this one was the fact that her brother kind of got away. And I felt as though her brother probably should, it's hard to, I'm one of those people where if you're going to put, whether they're a prominent character or not, if you're going to put someone in a near-death situation over and over again and they get out of it, it's kind of like, I'm kind of done with it. They have to die at some point. You can't just keep letting them get it. And I was actually having this conversation with my wife yesterday about we're rewatching Shippuden because that's something I literally rewatch Shippuden every single year just because I grew up on it, love it and I love it. But one major issue I have with it is Orochimaru and how he constantly should die and gets away every single time. Or maybe he's not should die but gets captured or whatever. Something, there should be consequences for his actions, and he doesn't ever get any. That's kind of how I felt with the Black Lighthouse chapter. Was I believe that was maybe the first or second time her brother was in a near-death situation. But when you think about the situation, the other little boy that was with him literally died. And they were right there. They were right there next to each other. Yeah, and it's not something to ruin it. I won't walk away. Like, for example, I really didn't even notice that until probably last year when I rewatched it. Or if we're talking about Orochimaru, I didn't, so I watched it for years, never thinking about it. Just in my head, it was more like, dang, how do they keep letting Orochimaru keep getting away with this? But now that I read more manga, I'm more, hip to more stories. I do kind of see there's no way you should get away that often. But yeah, it doesn't ruin the story. It doesn't ruin the story at all. And then especially if your character, once again, using an Orochimaru reference, if your character is such a domino for other surrounding stories, it kind of makes sense. In a lot of cases, Naruto needed Orochimaru to live. not Naruto himself, but the story Naruto needed Orochimaru to live because of the fact that, you know, you got the stuff with Sasuke, you got the stuff with Kabuto, you got all this stuff. I mean, but it was at the end. Yeah, he did. Her brother did, but he didn't come away at the end of it. But it was like one of those situations, and like I said, that was also the first encounter. So I'm not like too like gung ho on it. It's just more so he was locking step with that other boy, and the other boy burnt up, and he kind of survived and got to move on. But to your point, he didn't completely get away with it because at the end he turned to a snail and was almost eaten, but then he got away. So it's kind of like, you know. And then how they did it, where it was like, oh, you know, let's continue, let's pretend we're still carrying him. So it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, all right, I get it, but it's like, all right, like you tried to sneak that one in, because if those guys were really that crazy, they would have just attacked him, because we saw in was it either the chapter before or the chapter like 2 chapters before, the guy literally went into the shell of his friend to eat him. So I just was surprised that they didn't chase him down. But that's one of those things where, you know, we kind of needed to keep the story going forward, or else you wouldn't have got the end. So I get it once you read it, but like in the moment, it's kind of like, oh, he gets away. But also, he gets away physically, but to your point, he's still a snail. And then as you saw, you know, it doesn't really end up well for him, because, you know, you're just a snail roaming the earth now. So yeah, I guess he didn't really get away with it. I didn't think about it like that, to be honest, because I was more so thinking about how he physically got away at the end. But to your point, I actually do like that he didn't really get away because he's a snail. So I get it. The next chapter, the mosquitoes one, I like this one. I really like the mosquito chapter. Or was it the second one? Because the umbilical cord chapter is very, very simple. Is, you know, lock in step with the mosquito chapter. I think I really enjoyed the mosquito chapter. The umbilical cord chapter I wasn't too fond of. I really wish I could. What chapter is this? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So do I have notes on that? 11. Chapter 11. I need to change these colors. But chapter 11, see, look, finally a story that connects. Family. I didn't really like the second chapter, the second part of that story, because she went back and told her family, like, hey, our cousin or whatever is acting crazy and and they didn't believe her. And it's like, of all people, y'all don't believe it. Like, you saw what happened to Shuichi's parents. You saw what happened to your own father. Her brother literally just dealt with what happened in the lighthouse. Y'all didn't believe her that something crazy was going on. And that's something that I will say irked me throughout this whole story, was the fact that I felt like there wasn't enough, like, please listen. Like, I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Like, a lot of stuff is happening. This is happening. And I will say, everything that happened was ridiculous. So the average person is probably not going to believe you, especially if they're not experiencing anything on their own. However, her family experienced it on their own and still didn't believe her. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, this story I wasn't too crazy about. The storm, that was the hurricane one. That one was okay. It was something about, her going out in the middle of the storm. That was kind of wild. It was like, okay, what are we doing here? We're really going out into the storm. But as we've all mentioned, you need stuff like that to keep this story going, because not about the story, it's about the visuals. So I completely understood it. It's just I wasn't too crazy about it. The house, which one was this one? I'm pretty sure the house one was the one where they go into there. Is this, now I'm getting my story. So is this before? Is this the story where they were like plants and that guy was watching them through the hole? I'm pretty sure that was, right? I'm pretty sure that it was that story. That was a good story. I actually like that story. That was a story where the body horror was good. The story itself was pretty good. It made sense. There was nothing in there that I was kind of like, you're just doing this to push the story along. Everything in there kind of was pretty pretty sturdy and cohesive, and I actually really enjoyed that one. Butterflies. Which one is? I actually don't remember this one. Butterflies. I really don't remember this story. Actually, which one was this? Now I gotta go look. Chapter 4. I'm gonna go look on Shonen Jump and see. Oh, it's actually on Viz. I'm gonna go look on there and see real quick, because if I pull it up, I know that channel get banned and all this crap, and I don't have time for it. I like my channel. What is it? Uzumaki chapter 4. Oh crap. Uzumaki chapter 14. Was that? Butterfly. Oh, okay. That I remember. The butterfly actually itself threw me off, but I remember why it's called butterfly now, because the news person came in and was like, "Oh, it's like the butterfly effect," which that was to me that was kind of crazy, because it was like the butterfly effect. That's not the butterfly effect. Not to what I understand. The butterfly effect is like one small thing can make things change, you know. But what was happening to me didn't resemble that at all. But the story itself was good. I actually like that story a lot. Just because you got some new oh crap, I clicked out. You got some new characters. You got you got some new characters, even though some of them died. But they, you know, the main news person, she stayed around for a little bit. You got to see kind of what the world was looking at then. And once the people started, the little boys, that was a really cool, like I said, that was a kind of cool art moment, if that makes, like, I'm trying to explain that without, you know, overly explaining it, but I really like the art in that, and how those boys looked really, like, disturbed, and they were evil, basically. That's why they were tied up in the first place. So, it just clicked for me that the whole, okay, I might sound stupid, but it just clicked for me about the butterflies, because okay, when she said, hey, the tornado's going around or something, you know, people talking or whatever, that going around being like the butterfly effect, I was like, that's not like the butterfly effect. Like, I get what you're saying, but that's not like the butterfly effect. However, in this story, she sees the boys and she releases them. And they're the ones that's tearing up the whole story. So then for them to come back and try to ruin it, that's a butterfly effect. Because something small as releasing these boys, hey, they were the ones causing the whole problem in the first place. So actually, that makes a lot more sense. So I appreciate that story even more. I might be slow, but I didn't think of it at the time, because I was so thrown off by her saying that one part was like the butterfly. I was like, okay, I get it, but it felt like a reach. But that makes a lot of sense. And that was a kind of crazy back and forth too, because they were trying to like blow the house down. And of course, they couldn't. They couldn't blow down the rose. And I actually really liked that, because I liked how people were kind of getting, you know, there was too many people in there. So you had that. For some reason, that's like one thing I really enjoy in kind of any kind of media, is that little, I wouldn't say I want a whole movie or a whole manga about it, but I love little stories where it's like, hey, we have a certain amount of people in here. Somebody has to go. And so that was kind of cool to kind of see how that transpired, as far as, you know, them eventually getting kicked out. Really because Suchui got kicked out, and so they followed him. And then you kind of saw, you know, people battling for space. It was funny, because as soon as they got kicked out, they're like, oh, now we have so much more room. And it's like, dude, that's 5 people compared to the 65 people in there. 5 people is not going to make that much of a difference in that small room. But it was hilarious. But yeah, this is where, once again, like, right at the storm is where everything to me felt like it was really starting to connect, due to the fact that you had, this probably is my favorite part. If we take this was 14, so 13, 12. If we take chapter 12 to the end, that was probably my favorite section of this manga, was chapter 12 to the end. I had individual stories that I liked more up in the first 11 chapters. And like a lot of them, 1, 2, 3, 3, just because the body horror in that was really, really good. It was creepy and disturbing, but it was really good. I'm not going to deny the fact. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't really care about that one too much. didn't care about that one too much. 6, 7, 8. 8 out of the first 11, not bad. Not bad. When you put them together, maybe it made me feel, a little but 8 out of the first 11, not bad. I liked them individually, but as far as like consecutive chapters telling, a story, 12 through 18 or 19 was solid. I really enjoyed it because I'm looking and all these were good. The Labyrinth was really cool. Chaos, which that's more of like them fighting. Yeah, that's more of them fighting, trying to get into the house. And then we have Erosion. Which one was that one? Erosion. I don't remember which. Oh, Erosion's. I think when they saw the ships come, and then they got the ships kind of disappeared, and then they escape. That was a good one. That's where they go and meet the people in the forest. So yeah, like it really, really got good here. And so it's more signs of Junji Ito showing that, hey, I really can do this if I wanted to. But I like kind of grossing you out. I kind of like making you feel uneasy. Like there was one part in either Completion or Labyrinth where it had to be Labyrinth because it was when they went back into the Labyrinth after they were gone into the woods for such a long time. And they come back and they're like, oh, it's been years. And they were kicking people out, but they were swirled up. That was gross. That was gross. I was like, man. I had to put it down for a second because it was disturbing. But I really liked it. Overall, oh man, I have a spreadsheet. Let's see. I have a spreadsheet of like my manga. Yeah, like in order of what I like. Basically, it's just rankings, and it's not too in depth. It's not like too crazy, but it's there, and I want to see if we can put this. I actually was going to do a video on this, so if you're in the stream, cool, you get to see it, or if you get to watch, if you're watching a replay, it is cool, you get to see it. But these are all the manga I've read, reading, whatever the case may be. I wish it was more. I really do. But everything I've read or I am reading, actually I should add color list to this because I started reading that. That's a pretty good story as well. For the sake of the video, for the live stream, so you saying video, we'll add colorist here. I'm like 2 volumes into that, and I really like that. But we're not here to talk about colors. We're here to talk about Uzumaki, and I just want to, let's just roll this down to here. Okay, so I want to, right now it's at 12, and I don't really know where to put it. Oh, and I should say completed. All right, so, oh man, Mashal I'm not done with. I like it more than Mob Psycho. In fact, I like Dr. Slump more than I like Mob Psycho. I probably should move. I'll do it. But I really like Tomodachi Game, even though I have not read it all yet. But I watched the anime and really liked it, and I liked it more than Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho is like, y'all hear me talk about it all the time. It's one of those ones where, oops, that messed something up. Okay, too dark. Yeah, there we go. It's I see all the good. It's just the bad sticks out to me too much. I'm trying to find where to really rate my Uzumaki though. Oh man, I'm only the first like 15 chapters into Mashle, so I think Uzumaki could go past that. Because even though I thoroughly enjoy Mashle from what I read, I haven't completed it or even read as many chapters I've read of Uzumaki, which is crazy. I already have colors up here. Okay, we can delete this. Delete row. Oops. I didn't realize I already put it on here. Alright. So, oh man. I don't know where to put it. It's got to go above Mashle, right? It's going to go above Mashle. It's going to go... Goodbye Eerie was good, though. It's going to go above Goodbye Eerie. It's got to go above Goodbye Eerie for me. Wild Strawberry... That's another good one. That's a really good one. Oh, man. But is Uzumaki better than that? I don't know. I don't know if Uzumaki's better than Wild Strawberry right now. For me. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it at 10. I'm gonna leave it at 10. And by the time I do this video, I actually have some. Now that I'm done with Uzumaki, I have a couple things I'm about to start really picking up and reading. But I'm gonna leave it at 10. And once I add the 2 things I'm about to start, then I'll go ahead and add it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, that's really it. That's all I really wanted to say. I know that, I didn't say too much, I guess, but I would say, as you can see, it was top 10 for me out of all manga I've read so far, which is only 23. I don't know why I was about to say 30. I was going to say 32, so maybe I'm dyslexic or something. But out of the 23 manga I've read, it's top 10. So, you take that for what you will. But I like it. I will admit, at first I did not like it. I didn't think, I just didn't like how the stories kind of came together. But as I read more and more, I started to like it more and more. I started to understand what Junji Ito was going for. It does make me want to go back and read at least, because I actually have no problem with the first 12 through 19. So it makes me want to go back to, the beginning and read like 1 through 11, chapters 1 through 11, and see, now that I know what I know, does that change my perception of it? Because overall, these are my pros and cons. So for pros, art, fantastic. I don't think there's anybody, no matter how you feel about it, can take anything away from the art. The horror aspect, like body horror and kind of the eeriness, I don't think you can take away from that either. Whether the story makes sense or not, I don't think you can take away the horror aspect of it, and how Junji Ito just does a good job of kind of setting up this world and making it creepy, making it disturbing, making it crazy. I think he does a really good job of that. I will say, to me, either makes you love Jujutsu. Oh yeah, see, and I don't hate him. That's why I think I'm in that love category. It does make me want to read a lot of his shorts. I know he has like a lot of short stories or shorter stories. It makes me want to read a lot of those. It doesn't. I will say it doesn't have me eager to read something like Tomie, which is similar size, or Tomi, however you want to say it, which is similar size. After reading that, it makes me want to go into the short stories and then maybe read that after, because of the fact that for me, it took until, chapter 12 for me to be like, I get it. I really see it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's stuff that, I've seen movies multiple times and that, like, not to the 4th watch, I'm like, or listen to a song by the 10th time, I'm like, it clicks. So I think, to be fair to Junji Ito himself, it would probably benefit me to read more of his shorter stories and get a better feel of what he does and how he does it, and then go into Tomie. Because I still want to read it. It just doesn't maybe want to jump right into it. So I think I'll probably pick up like some of his other stuff. And if you have recommendations, please let me know. You don't have to let me know here if you can't think of them right now. You can always let me know in the comment section below, or if you're in the Discord, let me know there. It definitely makes me want to read. It just tries to connect even less to itself. Yeah. So if I feel like I'm like Uzumaki more, yeah. So then, I'll probably just read his other short stories and then kind of go to Tomie, or just to check it out. But I think that's kind of where I land on it. As far as what I think, well, I probably still finish the pros and cons. I said body. I said the horror aspect. I said body. Well, I said art. I think he does have good storytelling ability when he wants to. It's just a matter of, now that I know that it was more of a choice that he chose to kind of focus more on the art, I'm okay with that. So I do believe he does have the capability and definitely shines when he's telling a story. Let me see what else. And I think it's a talent to be able to fight off, because there's probably, I would think there's an urge to make it all connect, right? There's probably an urge to be like, I want to tell a complete story from point A to point B. But I think it's probably a talent to be able to give little bits of foreshadowing, have it not make sense, be willing to deal with that, like be willing to have your readers deal with kind of being taken through these chapters, not really understanding what's going on, to not until, halfway through the book, it's like, oh, it all connects now. And then have it kind of play out flawlessly. I mean, I really didn't have any issues with the latter part of Uzumaki. So to me, that's a talent. That's a talent in its own right. So I will give him credit for that, because there's a lot of times we see in media in general, it could be even a news article. They'll say 10, 15 things up here, and by the end, you're like, oh, they never kind of really brought it back. No, I believe every single thing, if we go back and look at the chapters, every single thing I think you can say, was connected in its own right. Was it in your face connected? Probably not. I mean, there were some things that you might have to look into and be like, okay, I see why this connected. I see why this connected. Or I have to really pay attention. But I think, looking at the chapter list and understanding what happened in each individual chapter, I think it all played out. The snails came back, made sense. The Jack in the Box, that story was kind of by itself, but it did make sense as far as it made sense at that moment. It was kind of like a for the moment type of thing. I feel as though that story was just to showcase kind of how that story, the Medusa story, and even though I didn't care for it, the Twisted Soul stories, these 3 stories right here, I think it was just to show this is not just about our main characters. This is just about Tsuchui. This isn't just about Kairi. This isn't just about her family, his family. I think those chapters was to show this is affecting the whole town, and it's not just them that sees it, because up until that point, it was just them that saw it. And then for Scar, that girl died, so it was kind of boom, it was out the way. That was your first, shot at seeing, hey, it's not just happening to these characters, but no one really was able to kind of tell the tale, because everyone that was involved in the story, if I remember correctly, died. So that was a kind of cool way to go into that. And then he kind of took it back, showing the family, once again, showing how it affected her dad, because at this point, it really only affected Shuchui's parents, her family. The Twisted Souls one, that was the one where the rose, the house rose, and then that girl was forbidden to see that boy. And then they kind of came up together and ran off into the sunset. Oh, they were? Well, what do you mean by vampires? Like the people who ended up? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I didn't know that. I need to go back. I need to go back and check. Because if I'm understanding correctly, are you saying vampires from like the mosquitoes? Were they vampire? I guess they were. Yeah, they were just looking for blood. So I guess I didn't really think about it like that. If that's what you're referring to. But yeah, but once again, to your point. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I didn't think of them as vampires, but that's exactly what they were. I want to go see once again. Now I need to go back. But I think everything in here connected pretty well. It was one of those ones for me. Didn't really make any sense, but once you got here to the storm, it made sense. I will admit though, for me, by the time I got to 12, I had fatigue. So in the moment for reading these, I was like, oh, I like them, but I really didn't feel the way I felt after. The way I felt while reading them, I was cool with the stories. But once I finished it, I felt a different way, positively. I was like, oh, I get it now. I completely understand it. It was like, okay, this is cool. I didn't realize I liked, this run of chapters until I finished it. I was like, dang, I actually really enjoyed the last 8 chapters. But you was going to put a stake in the Jack in the Box. Oh, I didn't catch that. See, so yeah. Definitely, now that proves that I need to go back and read. But I think Junji Ito just did a fantastic job of kind of connecting it all. Was willing to kind of go out on a limb, have people read this and be like, what the hell am I reading? But but then kind of easily brought it back, make it all make sense, and I see why people love it now. I do. I really do see why people love it. Now, I will say, I know there's people who usually sometimes attack people or be like, oh, you didn't get it, for people who didn't like it, but I can see why someone didn't like it. I wasn't on the did not like, so if we, just real quick, if we were going back, mind you, when I had, because remember this was at 12, like a few minutes ago. When I did that, I probably was like somewhere in here when I did that, when I put it in there. So that showed that even as someone that didn't love it, I appreciated it. I'll say this: I can't see someone to completely hate it. I can see someone not liking it. I can see someone being like, okay, this is a little stupid, but I can't see anyone completely just hating the story. But yeah, and then just for the cons, like I said, it's not Junji Ito's fault, but you know, starting off that way with having everything just so happen so that the story can progress can be a little off-putting at times. But I feel as though it ended up connecting in the end. So if you're someone that can, you know, power through, then it puts it together. But I will put that as a con just because that's a rough start. If you don't know what you're getting into, that's a rough start. It's not his fault, but that's a rough start. Another con I would have is that I felt as though there were ways he could have told these stories, but be a little more cohesive. Like, for example, what he did from the storm to completion, I felt like there was some things he could have really did here to have it do the same. Maybe if you cut out some stuff, like the umbilical cord one, that one didn't really need to be there. I think that there was some stuff he could have cut out and then just create and kind of connected more. The Twisted Soul one, I mean, that story itself wasn't really anything, but you needed the row houses. You wouldn't have known about the rows without that story, to my recollection. So it's like I felt like he could have just put like certain things in certain places. If you weren't gonna have the dad act crazy ever again, I think that chapter could have got written up. So there was just some things I felt like could use some like teetering. I wouldn't change the story completely. I'm not saying like this Medusa or the Twisted Soul stories needs to go, but I needed that foreshadowing for the road. So maybe you could have found a way of telling that. The Scar, that was a good one to like pop off. Hey, this is happening to other people. Maybe there's a way you could have connected that to Medusa. I don't know. There's just things that like I felt like could have been like connected and then have it kind of play out a little better. And once again, the storm to completion, it wasn't like it was this. That's true. That it is what happened. Dang, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. But see, but once again, I didn't need it to happen with those characters. If we did that with Kairi and Shuichi, then you know what I'm saying? I would have been okay with it. The act itself, I don't know. To me, the act itself, I didn't need. Maybe I'm saying with those characters. I probably need to sit on it for a minute because you make a really good point. You make a really, really good point. I'm sitting here thinking because I needed the foreshadowing. I did like that he brought it back for the end. Maybe you do leave it there. Maybe you do leave it there. I don't know. I just felt like there were some stories that probably could have got cut out, or maybe not the whole. And I'm not saying the whole story, just like parts of it, and then just have it flow a little better. But I don't know because, like I said, the storm to completion, it wasn't like it was this perfect story, but I really like how that flowed. Maybe it was the jarring jump between the stories is what threw me off. I don't know. I really do need to go like this. I really do need to go back and read it. At least the first 11 chapters. Maybe not. Maybe first 10 chapters. Because there's nothing you could tell me about umbilical cord that I will be like, oh, that makes sense. Or I like it. Because it made sense. I just didn't care for it. Black Lighthouse, I like that because that, like the figure you see at the end is very similar to that. Maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way. Because now that I'm thinking about it, like, while the entire story may not have been related to what was going on, the key moments in each of these stories did play a factor into the latter part of the story at some point. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But, all right, guys. I have stuff to do today. Originally, I was going to probably stream from it's about 1 now. But I was going to stream from 11 on the dot to 1 because, I thought, 2 hours. That's fine. But then, YouTube was not being my friend. So it just kind of messed things up. But I have stuff to do today. We got cars to look at because we need another car. So yeah, I just got adult stuff to do. But thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you run into anything watching this and say, hey, I wish you did more of this, or you should think about doing this, because I originally was going to go on here and play like Cyberpunk while we talk about it. But I think kind of like clicking around and showing stuff, I think that was cool. And I wish I could do more of it. Next time I'll be more prepared. I feel like I just didn't want to show too much like of art and then get my channel taken down. I'm thinking about making like a test channel to see what I can get away with, and then what I do get away with on there, bring it to here. We'll see. I'll keep playing around with it. But thank you so much. Like I said, if you see anything or you think anything I need to improve on to make this better content for y'all, please let me know. I really, really enjoy doing this. We should probably do this more often, not just with the buddy reads in the Discord. I had a lot of fun. Thank you especially to Evil Dead and Random. You guys really kept the chat going, and I really appreciate that. We really had some... See, yeah, so that's funny. I really thought about just playing Cyberpunk and then kind of like talking. Maybe I'll do that next time. I know Kingdom Hearts just came out on Steam, so I thought about like getting that and playing while we talk. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do like that more often. Like maybe with the buddy reads, I'll continue doing the kind of this kind of format where we click around and show stuff and talk about stuff. But when it comes to just regular random streams, I might play a game and we just talk manga. I think that'll be better. But yeah, I had lots of fun. Thank you. It was fun. Evil Dead Random, you guys are the best. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody who tuned in, whether you're tuning in live or you're tuning in, in the playback. Thank you so much. Like I said, if there's anything you feel like could help this stream, be better, please let me know. But I'll see you guys next time or for the next buddy read. If you're not in the Discord, I'll make sure to put the link in this live stream so you can go ahead and go over there and make sure you vote. I'll allow a couple of late votes to kind of slide in, because right now I think it's... In fact, let's check real quick before I log off. I think the vote is buddy reads, and then here. I think right now the vote is all you need is kill. So if you want to join, make sure you go ahead, and you can probably go to one of my old videos, click the link, join the Discord, and then just make sure you go to buddy read, and then there's a thread somewhere, or if you can just go to here where I tagged it, go here and vote for our next buddy read. I want more votes because this is really close, and I don't want people who wanted this to win, kind of miss out by one vote. That would suck. So yeah, go ahead and vote if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.